Unit 1 is called Political Philosophy. It's about the foundations of American government from political philosophy to the United States Constitution. Before this U.S. government class, you've been building your understanding of the United States and the U.S. Constitution since kindergarten. In elementary school, you learned about the Founding Fathers' contributions to the Constitution. In junior high, you studied all about the Declaration of Independence and how the U.S. Constitution was developed. In world history, you learned about the Enlightenment ideas that influenced how our government was established. In U.S. history, in 11th grade, you learned about many of the amendments that were added to the Constitution since it was created. As you review and study the information in this unit, there's a couple of questions you should think about. The first one is, what significant political ideas have impacted government in the United States, and how are historical political debates in the United States still reflected in current political thought? When we study U.S. government, we start off by asking the question, what is government and what is it for? In order for a man to live in groups, he must give up some of his freedoms to the government in exchange for protection of his natural rights. This idea is called social contract theory, and it was an idea that was developed by Thomas Hobbes, expanded by John Locke, and by Jean Jacques Rousseau. The authority of government is derived from the consent of the governed. The citizens could challenge a government that does not preserve their natural rights. In addition to John Locke, these are other individuals whose principles of laws and government institutions informed America's founding documents. Moses brought the Ten Commandments, Baron Charles de Montesquieu proposed separation of powers and influenced James Madison, William Blackstone was an expert on English common law and connected law with Judeo Christian principles, and Thomas Jefferson was the primary author of the Declaration of Independence and was heavily influenced by John Locke's ideas. So, how did the government that we have now in the United States even come about? Do you remember learning about the American Revolution and the Declaration of Independence? The United States of America wasn't always its own country. It was a land inhabited by a variety of indigenous communities, and then Europeans moved and brought enslaved people taken from Africa. Great Britain considered the land to be their colony, and the Europeans who lived there called themselves colonists. Because it was so far from England, the king allowed the colonists some opportunities to run their own affairs. The colonists continued to feel like they should have their own government separate from Great Britain. The United States declared its independence from Great Britain with the Declaration of Independence. This document explained that people should have a right to create a government to protect their rights, and governments are established for the limited purposes of securing individual rights. Authority is derived from the consent of the governed, and people have the right to alter or abolish government when it fails to fulfill its purpose. Founding fathers were those who were key figures in declaring independence, fighting the Revolutionary War, or drafting and or adopting the Constitution. John Adams was a member of the First and Second Continental Congress, part of the Declaration of Independence, and he was vice president and then a president. Alexander Hamilton was a delegate to the Continental Congress and the Constitutional Convention, and he co authored the Federalist Papers. Thomas Jefferson was the author of the Declaration of Independence and a president. James Madison was essential in ratifying the Constitution. He wrote some of the Federalist Papers and he was a president. John Jay helped secure judicial precedent so we could have the judicial system that we have today. And George Mason was an anti Federalist and the father of the Bill of Rights, which is the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. The following are principles of government that make up the constitutional democracy of the United States. Limited government is a system where laws define the limits of power. Republicanism promotes a government with elected representatives accountable to the people. Popular sovereignty asserts that political power resides with the people who express their will through voting. The principles of individual rights led to the creation of the Bill of Rights, which protects various personal freedoms. Federalism means power is shared between the federal and state governments, and the system of checks and balances allows each government branch to limit the others. The U.S. Constitution improved the Articles of Confederation by establishing a federal system of government that balanced power between national and state authorities. The Articles left the national government with limited authority, unable to tax or regulate commerce, which caused economic stability. In contrast, the Constitution empowered the national government to enforce laws, collect taxes, and manage trade while allowing states to retain some powers. This strengthened framework addressed the weaknesses of the Articles, enabling the new nation to respond effectively to challenges and maintain order and unity. There were several debates about what should be included in the Constitution. The Virginia plan proposed a bicameral legislature with lower house representation based on state population and the upper house selected by state legislatures. In response, the New Jersey plan favored equal representation for each state in a unicameral legislature while maintaining the Articles of Confederation and slightly increasing Congress's powers. The Great Compromise merged both plans by allocating lower house representation by population and granting 2 seats per state in the upper house. The Three-Fifths Compromise allowed southern states to count 3/5 of their enslaved population for representation and tax purposes, highlighting the contentious issue of slavery. This led to a divide between Federalists who supported the Constitution and a strong national government, and Anti Federalists who feared national overreach and advocated for individual and state rights.